Well, thank you so much, Greg, for joining me today on the WaveCapital's guest speaker series on relationship building in a team environment. You're my 37th guest. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Lucky 37, right? Should be your best one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were the 1995 ACC Rookie of the Year, former NBA player. Now you're the associate head coach at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Greg, Coach Buckner, when you think of relationship building in a team environment, what does relationship building mean to you?
Well, I think the most important thing is trying to get a group of individuals, whether it's, older guys, younger kids, people in the business world, people in the sports world. You got to get across to everybody that we all have to be selfless, right? We all have to understand that we have to sacrifice some kind of way, even in families, right? In some kind of way in order for everybody to thrive, right? The greater good, the greater good of the team is much more important than the greater good of yourself. And if you can get that across, even to 75 to 90%, because we know there's going to be some small percentage of people just can't get it. Now, as soon as you can, you got to try to weed those guys out or women out. But the higher the percentage of the people on that team that you have doing those selfless things, the better chance that your team, your organization is going to be highly successful and a place where people want to be a part.
And when you were first, starting out, as a young guy, when did you realize that you wanted to play basketball and that was going to be part of your journey?
I knew I wanted to play basketball at a very young age, probably 3, 4. My mom and dad played in high school, and it's kind of in my DNA. And then I'm old school. My grandmother, when she kind of raised me, and she used to clean homes, and I used to go around with her and clean homes when I was like anywhere from like 2 to 6 at the time. And to keep me out of the way, she would just put empty clothes back in the corner and bring my basketball, which was a little rubber ball back then, and just say, go in the corner and shoot the ball. And I kind of fell in love with it that way. Now, when I thought I wanted to play professional basketball, I'm a little different in that way. I never thought I was going to play professional basketball growing up. I just wanted to go to college and play on CBS on Sundays, and in my 4 years, get my degree, and then go back home and maybe be the assistant high school coach and work in a factory as a manager instead of as a floor worker. So that was my journey. And then once you get to college, and like you said, you become ACC Rookie of the Year, you say, you know what, you can get paid doing this job. And I really took it serious and focused on trying to get to the NBA.
And talk about your mentors, in high school and college. You mentioned your parents, you mentioned your grandmother, big influence on your life, and I'm sure she was a mentor to you as well. And talk to me about mentors you might have had in high school and in college, and about your teammates as well.
Yeah, in high school, I was one of those guys who kind of was better than everybody at a very young age. And the reason why is because I played with older guys from when I was 11 years old on up, because I was, I was always taller than the kids my age for the most part. So I would play with older guys. And those guys back in the day had either played high school, and some guys had went to junior college, and, they just roughed me up and taught me how to play. And it's like, you're not going to get to shoot, you're the young kid. So do all the little things. So that whole group, that whole generation in my hometown kind of mentored me and helped me out with those things. And then once I got to high school, I had a guy named Chris Whitney who actually played in the NBA. He lived right across the street from me, and he was one of the reasons why I didn't think I would play in the NBA. Not because he's trying to tell me I could, but because we came from a small town. He made it to the NBA, lived on the same street, lived right across the street. There's no way two of us are going to go to the NBA. I just, the way the numbers pan out. So I was like, but he mentored me on how to work, how to compete, how to get in the gym, 2 or 3 times a day, whether we was playing open gym at the rec center, then we would work out, then we play open gym at night at one of the high schools. So he mentored me to put the work in. And then when I got to college, he did the same thing. He was in the NBA. He brought me to Atlanta in the off season to work out with other NBA guys. And to get that feel of can you hang with these guys? And once you have a couple good summers against those guys, now you don't dominate by any means, but you're a part of helping those teams win in the summer. You feel like you got a chance, and he really helped me out. And then when I got to the NBA, I got lucky and got a bunch of good veterans on that team. And then we didn't win many games, but they taught me how to be a pro. They taught me how to work. They taught me how to take care of my body. Michael Finley, Steve Nash, Gary Trent, Sean Bradley, Hubert Davis, um, Robert Pack, Cedric Sabalas, all these guys I still kind of talk to, except for probably Hubert and Sean. If we see each other, we'll speak. But those other guys I still talk to, and that's just because they just made a lasting impression on my life, especially my basketball life. And we laugh and joke and crack crack on each other all the time. And they made sure that I was going to be successful in the NBA, and not for just 1 year, but get a eventually end up in a 10-year career.
Absolutely. You mentioned some special players. I love the synergies and I love the commonalities, amongst, former players, current players. I mean, you mentioned Cedric Spalls. I had head coach Del Harris on my podcast. He's very close to Cedric Spalls. You mentioned Hubert Davis, and Hubert Davis is now the men's basketball coach at University of North Carolina, my alma mater. You mentioned Chris Whitney, who played with Michael Jordan on the Washington Wizards.
Right.
And Sean Bradley, he was also featured with Michael in Space Jam, obviously.
Right.
I remember that. I remember that team, growing up, and what a special group of players. Do you remember specific conversations? Whether it was with Gary Trent or Michael Finley, Robert Pack.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I remember specific conversations where, wow, this is relationship building working at its best.
Yeah, I think one of the times, a couple funny stories, like, AC Green was one of those old school vets. Like, I'm old school, but he was one of those old school vets. And he was on that team early in the season. I'm just coming out of college. You're the man, people are telling you slice bread. And, and, and you're still a little afraid when you get to the NBA for the first time. Do I really belong? And AC Green was one of those guys. Like, he would, Nelly would come in and say, "Okay, Brooks, put the balls up. Let's get ready to go." AC Green would throw the ball all over the gym and say, "Rook, go get the ball." And it was like, "Oh my God, like, what are we doing?" And I was frustrated, and I was like, I just want to go home. Just forget about this. And Gary Trent, he sat beside me in the locker. We had lockers side by side. And he's like, "Look, Rook, ain't nothing at home for you. Uh, just keep fighting. This will get better. This is what we all go through." And that opened up my eyes. Like, I'm not the only one that went through this or going through this. There's other rookies in the NBA going through this right now. These other guys that are vets have been through this. They fought through it, and they're no tougher than you mentally and physically. So you can handle this. And he continued to remind me that you're okay. You'll be okay. You can handle this. You got a bright future in this business. And that really helped me. And that, when he did that for me, having my back, I had to have his back. I felt like I had to have his back on the court, and that made us a better team in those situations. Michael Finley, I would dress a certain way for practice and dress a certain way for the games. And, you're 21, 22, you want to be the cool kid. He put me aside and said, "No, Rook, we don't dress like that. Professionals don't dress like that." And he bought me my first 10 suits. And, when somebody does that for you, you're forever indebted to him. He obviously taught me how to dress, and then he taught me how to be a professional and doing things the right way. And those two guys really opened my eyes, and those two stories that I just really remember that those two things helped me become a successful basketball player, and now a successful basketball coach.
Absolutely. And you were a part of a very special team. And it's wonderful to hear stories about how, Michael Finley or, others would pull you aside and teach you the things that, NBA players were adopting as professionals, how you dress, definitely how you carry yourself in the public eye. You mentioned, Don Nelson, your former coach. What type of mentor was he to you?
Nelly was one of those guys, man. I caught Nelly at the right time because he was still intense, still willing to teach young guys because we was a young team. Actually, all those guys I brought up, except for maybe Hubert Davis, he was probably his 9th or 10th year at the time, but the rest of us was 4 years younger. So he still was in the teaching mode, but he had been through the wars and understood that you teach the young guys different than you do old guys. And so Nelly was one of those guys is like offensive genius, man. He figured out mismatches, and no matter what your skill set was, he could figure out a way to take advantage of the defense with you. And he showed me those things offensively. And, I still kind of, one day when I become a head coach, I got into, my book, my offensive book is some things that Nelly did 25, 30 years ago that I know can still work that people don't use now. And, he allowed me to be me. He didn't force me to do something. The only thing he forced me to do was shoot open jump shots. He said, you have to shoot shots. If they get you an open shot, you got to shoot it. I mean, he cussed me out the first day of training camp. And I was, and then once I look back on it, I was like, that was the right thing to do because he understood that in the NBA. Now, and I tell these young guys down too, it's like, somebody get you an open shot. No matter when it is, you got to take that shot because if you don't, it's going to mess up the offense for the rest of that possession. So Nelly was a genius. His son, Nelly Jr., really, took a liking to me and showed me things and put me under his arm and said, look, Buck, you're gonna be okay here. Do things the right way, keep playing hard, and we'll make sure you'll be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned Del Harrison. He and Coach Nelson have a very strong relationship going back to the Mavericks. When you think about how you were a young guy, young player back then, and playing for Don Nelson and playing with all those guys, when you're a coach now and you see, whether it's the Cavaliers or any other NBA team, it's a younger league. It's been a younger league. It's not as, except for those, vets, in recent years who would have 15, 20-year careers. I mean, LeBron, he's probably the most tenured player, or one of the most rather. And when you think about how the game is played today, is it more offense, less defense? I mean, it seems like there aren't those set plays. Just me being the observer, me being the fan watching, NBA games in recent years as I've gotten older, it doesn't have the same style as, let's say, the 90s, 80s, and even before. More offense and, quick, pace, getting the ball up the floor, trying to score buckets quickly. Now, there are great defensive players, no doubt about it. But now the 5 position is more mobile and flexible, where back in the day, the 5 position guy was probably like, have his feet planted in the key and, he protect the rim. But just from your perspective as a former player and now as the associate head coach of Cleveland Cavaliers, what has changed or what has evolved in the game that you've seen, things that you like, things that you wish were different, and how has relationship building evolved too in the NBA?
Yeah, well, it's funny because you brought up Dale Harris in the beginning. Dale Harris coached me in Dallas too. He was an assistant coach there the first time with Nelly, and then I came back to Dallas. He still was there with Avery Johnson, and we called him the professor, right? But he was a genius. They was a match made in heaven because he was a genius on defense. Nelly was a genius on offense. So even then, when teams were playing defense, it drove Coach Dale crazy because it wasn't enough defense being played. And then I go to do TV, and I'm working with Dale on TV too, and he still's drawing up plays at Buck. Do you remember this? So that relationship that we built as him as a coach and me as a player continued to grow. 20 years later, neither one of us, I don't think, thought we would be doing TV. You know what I mean? And we're doing TV together, and we're teaching these younger producers in TV or these older producers sometimes in TV and our co-hosts in TV about basketball and building this team. Even on TV, we're a team. Nobody sees the producer and the director and the graphics and all those people, but they're part of the team to make us look good on TV, and the co-host, makes us look good, and we try to make her look good. And so again, team building because of what we went through in basketball was really good, and because we could communicate to each other, and they could be critical of me, and I not get sensitive, and vice versa. So that was really good. And then the style of play now is for sure different. But I think that's the way the NBA wants it. I think the NBA understands that nobody, for the most part, us as old school people love watching the slow drag out game, but the average fan doesn't want to watch that, and that's understandable. You still got to play defense. Like we obviously know if you want to win a championship, you got to be able to score the basketball and play defense. So it's two sides of that coin. But for the most part, yeah, you're right. 5s are moving, 5s are shooting 3s, but it starts when they're kids before they even get to the NBA. And so many trainers right now are training these kids because you don't know who's going to be 7 foot. You don't know who's going to be 6 feet. There's some parents that's very small, have a big old son, and vice versa. So you got to be able to do everything. And the bigger you are, the more versatile you are, the better you are. And that's why Giannis is dominating. That's why the Joker is dominating. And Embiid, they're dominating. Back in the day, those guys would have been back to the basket, shoot a jump hook, drop step, dunk. You know what I mean? Now it's no. get on the perimeter, shake and bake, shoot a three, make a no-look pass, and it's fun for the fans. Obviously it frustrates the defensive coaches at times because they're like, what are we going to do with that? You know what I mean? But you figure out a scheme and build around your system to try to stop those type guys.
And talk to me about your coaching staff in Cleveland and the team that you're helping lead. What is so special about the Cleveland Cavaliers in your eyes? And I know that you're very prideful because you get to coach a great group of guys, day in and day out. What's so special about this particular team, and what have you learned so much in coaching, despite having learned from coaches, growing up and being a player and whatnot? But what have you learned as an actual coach yourself, getting to now this generation of players?
As a coach, you learn how to study the basketball game. When you play, you just play the game and you go off field and you just react to what the other team does. Right now, as a coach, you go in there and you have a plan. Like, this is what they're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And guys, I promise you, they're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and it's going to be successful. And they look at you and they laugh and joke with you. They tell me I talk too much. They mess with me all the time. So that's, go back to the first part of your question is what makes us special is that we love to laugh with each other, at each other. I mean, we joke on each other. Like Darius jokes on JB jokes on Jared Allen jokes on Greg Buckner. Greg Buckner jokes on Kobe Altman. I mean, it is an environment where with nothing but positivity. Now, obviously, we get on them and make sure they do things the right way. But, part of the way we get on them, it is a joke. And then everybody laughs, and then everybody understands, and no, it's serious. You got to get to your spots, is what we say. You know what I mean? Make sure you show your length. And they love it. We love it. And, we all enjoy it because it's not one of those places where, you walk on eggshells all the time. It's like, no, you're going to do your job. You're going to do it the right way. But you're going to get joked on when it happens. When you mess up, we're going to let you know, and everybody's going to look at it and be ready for the joke. And nobody gets sensitive, and it makes for a positive environment and a group of guys that wants to be here. They tell other people now. Other people, come up to myself and JB during the game, like, man, how can I come over there and be a Cleveland Cavalier? It's like, well, we're good right now. We'll talk to you later. Right now, we're good with our team, man. So it's just that positive energy and that laughter and no sensitivity within the locker room, within the organization, that really makes it a special place.
Absolutely. And it's so great that, you all could be yourselves, and it really brings out, the liveliness and the ability to just, not have to be so serious, all the time. Now, you guys are in a very serious profession. You're serious professionals. Right. You got to be on your A game every day, but to be, where you can just, be yourself and be able to, laugh and build strong friendships and strong relationships, because, off the court, there's a lot of bonding time as well as on the court. And it's just as important. What types of things do you guys like to do as a team, when you're not on the court and you're not in practice?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious thing is, like, when we're on the road, the coaches, for the most part, we'll go to dinner together. We'll try to build that bond and eat dinner together and have some good food on coach. We let coach pay for dinner because he's making the big money. I mean, those things. And then, obviously we do community service things. And obviously we do things at the practice facility, not just on the basketball court, but we get together, we do position meetings, to build team bond. And every NBA team is required to do community service things. I think our guys and our staff, we do a little more than what is required from us, because we understand that, you got to give back. You got to see what's out there in your community to appreciate your community and to appreciate each other and understand each other's likes and desires and what people want to do within the team, what they want to do outside of basketball. So we do some of those things. Coach likes to do talk off, like for team bond and things like that. Nothing crazy, but things that you got to do and got to be around each other off the court in order to be successful on the court.
Definitely. And you mentioned a lot about, community service, and that's so great that, the NBA, the motto NBA cares. And I love that, you speak well and highly of community service, because it's the most important selfless thing that any human being can do, giving back to your community, giving back to the people who matter the most, and people who really support you throughout the year, whether it's fans or even just the city of Cleveland. What is the city
Right.
of Cleveland? What has that meant to you as a person?
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? My kids are in high school right now in Cleveland, so I get to, go around, especially my son who plays basketball. My daughters play volleyball, and everybody knows I'm the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches for the Cavaliers. So the girls, friends, and parents, they want to, talk basketball. And sometimes you don't want to talk basketball, but you understand how these people have been in Cleveland their whole lives. It's the Browns, the Cavaliers, the Guardians now. They live and die for those teams. You know what I mean? So when they get a chance to talk and throw out suggestions, they're going to do it. And it's a lot of times there's a lot of fun. And I mean, like, I'm just an assistant coach. I can't do that. I'm not the general manager. I can't cut somebody or bring somebody in, which fans are never happy with your team completely. Like, we got to get this, we got to get that, and it's like, nah. And then that coach, but you're doing a good job. And when they say something like that, it makes you smile, laugh a lot, and it makes you understand and appreciate it, that you're in a great situation, not just in the organization, but the city who really supports you, who really has your back, and who really wants you to be successful because they've been there their whole lives and they live, eat, and breathe, Cleveland sports. It's really an unbelievable city when it comes to sports. They really love their teams. They really love their coaches. And since I've been there, no one said y'all need to be fired. Nobody said anything like that. It's like, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. We're so young. We can't believe we're doing it this quick in this way. And the guys just seem to have fun on the basketball court, and they really enjoy watching us play.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear. And, I know that you had said that, it's been a tough week of basketball. You're trying to get back into the win column. When you go through experiences as a coach, and you experienced it, and like every other player who ever played in the NBA or any other sport, you experience the wins, you experience the losses. So seeing wins and losses as a player and seeing wins and losses as a coach, how do you respond differently? Coaches have to, assure the players that everything is going to be okay, and that we'll just pick back up where we left off when we were winning games, and we'll turn these things around. What have you seen this week of basketball where you guys have been on a losing streak? What are things that you're telling your players to get you back in the win column?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a player, when you're going through these things, because a lot of us, when I played, I was fortunate enough to have, some guaranteed contracts for a few years and things like that. And I was like, well, I'll get them next time. I mean, it's really casual and nonchalant. It's like, okay, I'll shoot some more jump shots and all that stuff. And you just think, you can turn it around, because you're going to be out there and you'll figure it out when you get out there. But we'll be okay, is what you tell yourself as a player. But as a coach, being a former player, you don't have the same uh, power to change the game because you're not playing, and you know that. You know what I mean? So you worry more, you do more study, you watch more film, you have more conversations with the guys. And as a player, I'm pretty sure they're like, I don't want to see Buck right now. I'm tired of talking to Buck right now. But you understand that, like, okay, when you lose, it's because, 9 times out of 10 in the NBA, there's not many blowouts. There are always close games. So you probably lost because 3, 4, 5 possessions, maybe 6 at the most, when you're a good team like we are. So let's clean up these 6 possessions, right? Let's make sure that, we don't do these things, these bad things again in these same situations that we know we're going to see again, because it's the NBA. These things happen. These situations happen all the time. So let's clean this up like we did early in the season, like we did when we were winning, and we'll get back on the winning path. But you guys got to listen. You guys got to, be willing to do the little things in order to win games. And that's all you can do, is watch more films, communicate, have these meetings with these guys, and let them know that we're right there. It's not like we had 3 straight blowouts. It's not like we couldn't have won all 3 of these games. We just got to clean up a few things, and we'll be okay.
Talk to me about your family, and how, growing up, seemed like you had a very close relationship with your grandmother. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think about, you being a father and your family, and I'm sure they've embraced Cleveland, and what you do for the Cavaliers. You do an exceptional job of coaching. Talk to me about the relationship building dynamics within your family.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's really family. It's tough being a part of a family for a coach, whether it's high school, college, or the pros, especially the pros. I mean, it's one of those things. Like we was just talking about this over Christmas dinner with some friends that came to eat dinner with us. It's like at one point for like 5 straight years we moved. We moved from Houston to Dallas, from Dallas to Memphis. Um, couldn't find a house in Memphis, so we rented a place, then found a house, moved in the house, and they fired us the day we were moving into our house. We got fired in Memphis.
Wow, so sorry.
Yeah, yeah, it's part of the business, it's part of coaching, and then we get to Cleveland, couldn't find a house, we rented again, then we found a house. So now, so we've moved actually, like maybe not moved cities, but we had moved homes 5 years in a row. And that's obviously, my wife would, is the leader of the house. I might be the man, but she's the leader of the house. She makes that thing go. So it's rough on her, right? She, I have built-in friends because I have coaches, I have players, I have front office people. Every day I'm going to see some adults. My kids have built-in friends because they go to school, they got sports. My wife doesn't have those opportunities. You know what I mean? So she goes through a lot. So we have to find ways to build chemistry within the family. Me and her with our relationship, I got to try to do little things. You got to understand it's not all about basketball. I got to uh, sometimes put her first and second and third, and put basketball fourth, and sometimes fifth because you got to put the kids ahead of basketball at times. So it can be really rough, but we have to focus and understand that um, dad has this, what everybody says in the house. Dad has a job. He has to do this job. Sometimes dad's not home for Christmas. Sometimes I'm not there for birthdays. A lot of times I'm not there for birthdays, to be honest with you. But they all understand that now. They kind of accepted that this is the life we are in, and they love, that they can go to private school. They love they can play club sports, so they don't complain too much. But it is something that we have to pay very attention to make sure that we keep that close in the family. Because growing up, I always wanted to be in the same house for 50 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the same girl for 200 years, and kids and grandkids come over there, see Paw, as I already named myself back then. Paw sitting on a front porch with a pipe in his mouth. But when you go into coaching, you don't do that. I mean, I've lived. And me and my wife, we lived in Dallas, we lived in Philly, we lived in Minnesota, we lived in Denver, we lived in Memphis, now Cleveland, Houston. And so, and our kids is, my oldest daughter, she'll be 21 this month, and she's a junior in college in North Carolina. And she actually goes to North Carolina, matter of fact, plays volleyball in North Carolina. Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
right. But she's only been in one place, one school, 2 years at the most. you know,
Right.
at college, this is her third year in college, is the longest she's been at any school. And so she has a lot of friends, but she doesn't have a lot of close friends. So it's just tough that on them at times, but they accepted it and they've worked on it and they try to make the best out of it.
And it's very important that a family stays grounded and everybody knows his or her role, and there's a mutual understanding, knowing that you're providing for your family, and it's a passion of yours to coach, and you're a former player as well. And it's great when your family members are so supportive, and although very difficult when you're away on birthdays or holidays, that they know where your commitments are, and it's always like family first, because they know that the profession you're in is providing for you, and most importantly your family as well. When you think about your aspirations, um, obviously I would imagine, being an associate head coach of the Cavaliers, that one day you'd like to be the head coach of an NBA team. um, do you ever think about that, or are you one day at a time type of person, just see where things naturally take its course?
Oh, I think about it every day. Every day I think about it. I think about what I would do different, what I would do with my program. And I'm a guy who I would love to coach college as well because I want to make help the next generation be better than what we were and be better men than what I am. And in college you can really do that in college, I think. So I think about that every day. I think about what would I do in college if I'm a head coach? What would I do in the NBA if I'm a head coach? Because those are two different things, right? Those programs are completely different on how you would do things. One's built on recruiting, one's built on, free agency is in the draft and things like that. One's built on an AD, one's built on a general manager. You know what I mean? One's built on the president, one's built on the own. I mean, it's just so different things. One's going to be built on family, or where you have to be the father figure to a lot of college kids. In the NBA, you just got to manage these kids and manage these grown men who are fathers. You know what I mean? Who are the father figure in their family. So the dynamic is different. So I definitely think about it. I actually write in my notebook every day. They mess with me and talk about me for writing something. Like, you always writing or you always reading. I was like, I'm always trying to get better. So I do think about that. But I also don't want to rush it because I want, people ask me, would you take this job? And I was like, it's a bad job. That job's only going to get me fired. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to just take a bad job, where it gets you fired. I want to take a job where you have a chance to be successful and long-term success. Too many guys rush to take a job that's not good for you and not a good situation, and you end up not being able to be a head coach for 1 year. You don't get that opportunity again. So I definitely think about the good and the bad and how that would affect me, how that would affect my kids, because if you're the head coach, whenever you mess up, your family's going to have to deal with that, whether it's at school, whether my wife is at the spa or at the hairdresser, somebody's going to have something to say about how bad the head coach did the night before. So I definitely think about those things every day.
And, that's really the opposite of relationship building if you think about it at its core, because, when you have, as a coach, you might go through tough times and losing streaks, and there's going to be, disagreements of how, games should be, managed, or, if you're a manager, coached, if you're a coach, played, if you're a player.
Right.
And everybody needs to, really, gather together, assemble together and just, figure it out together, and
Right.
that's where relationship building is its strongest, when, players or an organization faces, the most adversity, that they're able to, find something within, be creative, think outside the box, try
Right.
different things, just to, turn things around, right? To turn your luck around. But when you hear about the things that you share, and I've heard that before, that, and it's no mystery, right? I mean, right, it can be a family member, whether your child's at school or like you say, your wife is out, like you said, at the spa or the hairdresser. I mean, yeah, people are going to have comments. People are going to say, not nice things, negative things. So, for you as a person, how do you deal with that? I mean, do you take it personally, or do you somehow figure out a way to, kind of like offset the, the negativity or the criticism, and just try to keep an open mind and try to power through it? Like, what's your personality like when it comes to things like that?
Yeah, I one thing I don't do is take myself too serious, right? I know I'm not perfect. I know other people have opinions, whether they're good or bad of Greg Buckner. The tough part would probably be that, my wife and kids are not part of my decisions at work. You know what I mean? A lot of times, like I've been a part of coaching staffs in the past where we've had to make decisions that the rest of the world didn't know we had to make because it was for the greater good of the future of the team, not the current team, the future of the team. So meaning you had to do things to try to get a higher draft pick, stuff like that. Or, you put yourself in a situation where you had to win this game, or where if you won this game, it didn't look good for you in down the road, and things like that. So I understand the backside of what goes on in coaching and professional sports. So all I do is, I'm a big laugh guy. I got these laugh lines. These are not wrinkles. These are laugh lines. You know what I mean? So I laugh all the time. And somebody saying something that they don't have a clue what is going on, I just laugh. And if somebody says something that they do have a clue, I still laugh. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's
Right.
a game. You know what I mean? It's a game. You know what I mean? Like, as you get older and, I'm getting older and some of my friends are dying, you seeing people you looked up to that are dying. You see an entertainer that you're like, man, I remember when he was just a kid in Lion King or whatever, and he died. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're on this world, we're on this earth for a very short period of time. Even if you live 100 years, it's still a short period of time. And, don't allow somebody's negativity to steal your joy. I mean, I'm not gonna let anybody steal my joy because I love to laugh. I love to be happy. And because somebody criticizes me or because somebody don't like me or somebody doesn't like the job I'm doing, so be it. They got a job to do. I got a job to do. One of my jobs is to be happy.
Yeah, and the key to relationship building too is that it should be a process that people enjoy and that brings happiness, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
being around people who make you feel good, who believe in you, who have confidence and trust in you. And you're right. We've been, and maybe it's just the way that the media world is, 24/7
Right,
social media, and just constantly hearing about who passed away today, or who's not feeling well, who's sick,
right,
and you want to hear more happy stories, obviously,
right,
but what dominates the news cycle, unfortunately, are people's deaths, or catastrophes, or what
right, right.
hurricane or what blizzard and all that. So, do you ever have conversations with your team, outside of basketball? Do they ever come to you for advice, or did they ever share with you, "Hey, I saw this in the news. Like, what was your reaction to this?" Or, "This is what I'm feeling about this situation." Do you ever have conversations with your players like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, these guys are so big and things like that. And they've been alpha dogs their whole life. Um, and for the most part, they've always asked and looked for advice from their coaches. And they, if you built that relationship with them and, I'll laugh with you, I'm hard with you, I'm firm on you and making sure that you do things the right way. But I got to talk to you every day to build that relationship, right? In order for you to trust me, in order for me to trust you, in order for me to get to know you, and vice versa. I think my job on this earth is to make this earth a better place um, than it was before I got here. So, me making my coaches and coaches that's under me better coaches, better men, better women. If we ever, had women on our staff, in the game of basketball, and then if I'm older than you, I want to mentor you to be a better person off the court. And same things with these guys. They see what's going on with snowstorms. That I may have lived in one. And it's like, yeah, fuck, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's like, boom, boom, boom. Then a lot of times we sit down and we have a 30, 45-minute conversation after practice. And, the gym's empty. It's just me and a couple guys laughing and cracking jokes and talking about those things is what's going on in the world. So you have to do those things in order to build great relationships, in order for each other to trust each other when it really gets tough, right? In the playoffs, game 7, you're on the road in Milwaukee. We got to, be really tight or we're gonna get blown out the doors and the crowd's gonna go crazy and they're gonna go into the next round. And if we build these relationships and understand what each one of us are thinking, it only makes us better. I mean, me and JB, we've been together for so long. He's coached me and now I've been coaching with him for 10 years now. And we just look at each other now because we've spent so much time and built an unbelievable relationship and an unbelievable bond with each other that we just look at each other and know what each other's thinking and he'll make a move. And I'll be like, we need to do this. And he'll do that, and he'll look at me. Should I do that? I'm like, yeah, we should do that. It's just like, and I think that's something you only happens when you build those relationships, spend time with each other.
Definitely, definitely. And you talk about your relationship with JB Bickerstaff, and Coach Harris. Introduced me to his father, Bernie
Mhm.
Bickerstaff,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was communicating with him via email last year at this time, and that's so wonderful to see his son become a head coach. So, talk to me about the relationship you have with JB and um, his father, Bernie Bickerstaff.
yeah. Well, Burn, and we call him Pops, right? So we Pops is around all the time right now. When before I came to Houston, I mean, I'm sorry, before I came to Cleveland, we would see Pops on the road. We would eat with Pops because he was scouting for other NBA teams, and he, make a schedule where he could be with us and be around us sometimes. So he's unbelievable brain. Not just basketball, but he's from Kentucky like I am. So so we got that bond of old country boys that made it at the highest level that nobody ever thought we could make it. You know what I mean? So we got that bond, but he's always challenging us, myself and JB, and even the rest of the guys on the staff, but specifically us two because we probably spend the most time with him. Um, and just telling us that, okay, this is the way we did things back in the day. Think about this, but put your twist on it. Don't do it exactly the same way we did it, but this way it worked. But I know the game has changed, but put your twist on it. But think about this and all those things. And then, if we mess up, you're like, yo, some dummies. You know what I mean? And we look like, Pops, the game has passed you by, but 100% it has not. You know what I mean? Because he's still. I mean, me and JB and Coach will be in the office, and I mean, it's college basketball, high school basketball, it's NBA. He is still watching it. You know what I mean? And I think he's almost 80 right now. He's still watching it, and me and JB looking at it like, man, turn the basketball off. You know what I mean? We were just talking about this, but he still watches it, so he's really important and really important to our success of challenging us and giving us that knowledge of, I mean, I get Coach Bernie's probably been in the league now 60 years almost, you know what I mean?
Sure.
55, I think. Yeah. So it's nothing he hasn't seen. You know what I mean? So we'd be fools not to pick his brain and accept all the wisdom that he gives us. And me and JB, I mean, his kids call me uncle, my kids call him uncle, and same thing with our wives. So it's just we're like brothers now. We've really spent so much time with each other, and we're like brothers. We're not like I'm not like working. Obviously, I work for JB, but I'm not. We don't have that type of relationship. Our relationship is a brother bond who we can say anything to each other and not get sensitive and understand. Now, we won't disrespect each other by any means, especially in front of others. Then we may have heated conversation within each other, but it's all for the betterment of each other, the betterment of our relationship, the betterment for the team. And we both know that. We're both competitive, fiery people that wants to win at all costs, and 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 we'll do whatever it takes to have each other's back. And it's one of those special bonds. And people say, man, you're gonna be a head coach one day. And it's like, what you gonna do when you gotta leave JB? And what JB gonna do when you leave him? You know what I mean? Because it's like we've been together so long. It's like you see JB, you see Buck, vice versa. And they understand that we're a dynamic duo and we do things together and we try to do things the right way. And one day, hopefully, win a championship together.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I so hope that you and JB and your team, win an NBA championship.
Get him in a championship. That'd be even better.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think that would feel if you beat him in a championship? I mean, that would be bittersweet, wouldn't it be?
It would definitely be bittersweet. But I do think, and it's just obviously I'm very biased to this. I do think JB will win a championship as a head coach, and I know when I become a head coach, I'm gonna win a championship. So I know both of us. I think both of us will win a championship. So if I beat him, it would be the best thing ever because if he beats me, I'll never hear the end of it. So if that happened, I think both of our families would be ecstatic and be joyful. I think both of us would still get to celebrate uh, the other's success, regardless of who won that championship. And if I won the championship, I'd send him a ring and say congratulations to him.
Yeah, well, that would be like the ultimate, gift right there. You got to do it around the holidays.
Right.
There you go. And you talk about wanting to, maybe one day coach in college. I mean, would you ever want to coach for your alma mater? And, you typically when you see, when people become coaches, I mean, they, get people from different parts of their life, who was on their high school team, who played with them in college, who was their, assistant, in on an NBA team. I mean, would that be like the ultimate goal for you to coach your alma mater?
It's always probably been my dream job. Right now, we got a good coach with Coach Brumell, but if he ever was to step away, I'd love to have opportunity at the very least interview and let those guys know what I would want to do with the program because I think Clemson is definitely a sleeping giant. I think it could be a national championship type program. If Baylor can do it and Virginia can do it, why not Clemson? I mean, they're not Duke and Carolina and Kentucky and those things. So and Kansas and the UCLA. So I do think that would be something special. That if I could ever get a chance to coach in college, that would be the only place in college I would say I would coach. You know what I mean? I'm not coaching at Missouri now. If Duke or North Carolina or somebody like that called, now I'd be a fool not to look. But they normally do things in house, which is understandable with their success and the people they have within their coaching ranks and the coaching trees at those places. It would be special to have somebody come back to get those jobs. So But if I ever had the opportunity to coach in college, it'd be Clemson. That'd be the only place I'd go and do my damnedest to try to help us win multiple championships like Dabo has done in football.
Definitely. And when you were at Clemson, Coach Rick Barnes was your coach.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your relationship with him.
Yeah, I mean, our relationship, it was good. I mean, I don't know where I'd be without Rick Barnes. I got to college as a young, very, very immature kid. Very thought the world revolved around me, and Coach Barnes stopped that ASAP. Yeah, like the first day, he let me know it's not going to be that way. But you're going to be better for it if you do things the right way and you continue to strive to be better on and off the court and in the classroom and in the community and things like that. So that relationship while I was there was amazing. A lot of people that I played with can't stand Rick, uh, but because they couldn't understand what Rick was trying to do, and I understood that at a young time in college that I didn't want to have to deal with Rick's wrath. So I'm gonna do things the right way. Other guys took a longer approach, a bad approach about it, and it got them in trouble. And some of them had to transfer because they couldn't handle it. But Rick was amazing to me when I played, and we talk not as much as I probably like to as an adult, but we're both coaches and we're both busy. And he has grandkids, and I have kids. It's always on the go. So I'm gonna hate it when those days come when you can't talk to him. But so I should definitely spend more time with him and around him, getting his knowledge on the basketball court and seeing what he does off the court as well, because he's an unbelievable man and he knows how to be successful.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to reconnect with, Coach Barnes. And I'm so glad that, for a gentleman like you who has now been a coach and, was a former player, and that you think fondly on your times at Clemson.
Oh, absolutely. Best times of my life, man. I mean, I brainwashed my kids. I mean, they Clemson, Clemson, Clemson. And, just this last week, Clemson actually called my son, and talked about him, possibly coming there. So, unbelievable time. I'd send any person I know, I'd tell them, go to Clemson, go to Clemson. I mean, because I just think it's an amazing place, amazing people, great environment for sports, great environment for education where those teachers really care about you. I'm pretty sure everybody feels that way about their alma mater, but I really do live and bleed Clemson orange for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And one of my previous guests was Richard Yergin the third, and he was a two-time national champion with Clemson, played for Dabo Sweeney, and he spoke very highly of Clemson as well. And when I was at the University of North Carolina, I mean, it was an ACC school as well. So, I remember all those years, being a student, and since, great, games played in football, basketball, and other sports. So it's great to, interview with you and a fellow ACC guy.
Sure.
But thank you so much for your time with me today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Before we depart from our interview, any last words that you might have about relationship building that you would love the audience to know about?
Yeah, I mean, first, thank you for having me. It was an amazing time this last hour. I mean, I can't believe it's been an hour already. So it's an amazing time. It was a lot of fun. So thank you for that. I think, other than go Tigers to your audience, I think, when it comes to relationship building, everybody must understand that it's about the bigger picture, right? It's not about you only. And you have to understand that it's about you being a small piece of the success of their whole team. So how do you do that, right? You have to be selfless. You have to be able to communicate with each other. You have to spend time with each other. You have to be willing to understand the other side. I mean, not too many times like it's, people that has been successful is my way or no way. And then, it's better ways. I mean, no matter how long you've been in the situation, there's still other ways, and it could be a better way for the betterment of the entire group. So I would just say, be selfless, listen, first, and then have those communications, and then spend time with each other, so you can see who people really are and see what really makes people tick, and how do you get the best out of each other? How do you challenge each other to become better? And if both sides are better, if everybody within the organization or within the team is better, and that relationship is stronger, that bond is stronger, that means there's going to be a higher rate of success, and everybody's going to be able to enjoy and laugh and have a good time.
Well, wonderful words of wisdom, very heartfelt. Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate it. Coach Buckner, I wish you all the best in the new year. Happy
Thank you.
almost 2023.
Right.
Hope the season continues to go well with the Cavaliers. You're doing a phenomenal job, great job. So glad that you've built so many, lifelong relationships, and that you can, think back and you even communicate with people from, different parts of your life as a former player, a college player. And this has been wonderful. I really enjoyed the hour too. Went by so fast, but really
Right.
enjoyed it. And thank you for joining me today on the WaveCapital's guest speaker series on relationship building in a team environment. God bless, and let's stay in touch. Glad we
For
have
sure. For sure.
contact information.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, and have a same to all those wonderful things you said about me. Same to you, and enjoy your day and stay out of trouble. And sorry that Carolina lost their bowl game.
Yeah, no, I wish we were up in that game, and I don't know
Yeah,
what happened.
we wouldn't play the game. Came back and say Carolina lost. What is going on? I want that. I think it's the Capital Bowl Series trophy. I want the ACC to win that. You know what I mean? Like we need everybody to win.
I know. I mean, it's when the ACC does well and plays well, doesn't matter if it's not your team.
Right.
When Clemson wins, it's great for the ACC.
Yeah.
Especially in
Yeah.
football. I hope to see your alma mater that you guys get to win a national championship in basketball. That would be exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I it's unfortunate that Carolina lost.
Yeah.
I pray that we at least win 10 games next year.
Right, right, for sure. Yeah, you got a good coach and you got a good quarterback. Things will be good. I mean, definitely going to be better. Florida State's going to be better, but I always fear Carolina right now with Mac Brown being over there and then that nice little young quarterback. It's a bright future over there for sure.
Definitely, and congrats on the ACC championship game win this year. I mean, it was a phenomenal win for you guys, and I wish Carolina wasn't on the losing end, but I'm so glad that professionalism and relationship building at its best. Mac Brown and Davos, when you have a great relationship, off the field, so it's all good.
Yep. All right, brother. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate it. You take care, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.